Welcome to the 617 podcast brought to you by Crowworthy, for the fans, by the fans. I am Michael Marcangelo, joined alongside by Hollywood Rayshawn Buchanan and the celebratory DK Sizzle, Dave Clark, as we unpack the Monday night massacre that was everything Chicago beating everything Boston and New England, with the New England Patriots going down 33-14 to the Chicago Bears, and the Celtics coughing up their lead in Chicago to lose. I believe the final that final score was, it's not as close as it looked. It was, remind me here because I'm blacking out.
But it was 33-14. It really should have been 40-14. But they chose to kneel at the end when they should have just read it in. Like, listen, Patriots just read it up on everyone.
But the Celtics was 120-102, right?
Yeah.
And so we're gonna get into all of that. But before I ask how you're doing, Ray, I think we all care about how DK Sizzle is doing, because this was a good night to be a Chicago fan.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a Bulls fan
Right.
by any stretch of the imagination, but 82 games in a basketball season, the loss hurts significantly less for the NBA side of things than the win feels good for the NFL side of things. I feel like it was we were sort of on the verge of having a performance either like that or the kind of polar opposite of that. We as much as we went into this game having lost like close games, and one or two boneheads making boneheaded mistakes, getting us into positions where we couldn't win the game. And for what it was worth coming into this game, like anytime Justin Fields was made to make a play and the game was in his hands, he made the play. It was just kind of the supporting cast or the special teams or, his receivers or whatever making stupid choices to fuck him up. So I was sort of waiting for it to click and to play a Thursday game and then have all that time to just sort of do like a mini bye week to get some stuff sorted out and make some adjustments and to go into a Monday night game where, quite frankly, like, overall, I'm sure you guys were feeling pretty good when Zappe came in, and it was a pretty fucking hostile environment, and all the momentum was for New England, and it looked like Bill Belichick had lucked into another unbelievable quarterback, and they weathered the storm, and for a young team, I was really proud of them because I was pretty doubtful that it was going to go our way when the Zappe show started. But for me, it's like, I know that we do a New England centric podcast here, but for me, from my perspective, just about my team, they looked great, honestly. Like, they looked like they had the potential to actually become a unit that works together. They look young because they are. They looked athletic, and they look like they put together a game plan and accomplished it against the best coach in the history of football. So to come in and do that in New England, where I know you're not the New England Patriots of old, and I totally understand that, but it's still, from somebody who's watched the reign of Bill over the course of my whole fucking life, it still feels great to get a win in New England, especially that kind of win, especially in prime time. So yeah, I feel fucking great.
That's awesome, DK. Ray, leading up to this game, is it going to be the return of the Mac? Is it Zappe Seaver? How much of that do you think played into the performance that we saw, and what were just your overall takeaways from that shit can of a game?
Yeah, it ties into that old statement that, if you have two quarterbacks, then you have none, right? And I think that they weren't really clear about the message all week about who was going to start, who was going to, take most of the snaps. And obviously, Mac's start did not help, it didn't help his bid at all to continue being the starter for that particular game, on Monday night. So, as they alluded to, Zappe comes in and immediately they get a joke. I mean, it was literally night and day. And it was wild to hear, fans yelling, Zappe. I was like, wow, are they yelling this on the broadcast right now? You can hear it coming through, the airwaves. So, but yeah, I think it played a large part to it. I think that, because Mac has played in Alabama, I think that this is something that he's been accustomed to, but at the same time, you want to be the guy you were brought in as the guy to be the heir apparent, so start Brady, even though there was a gap year in between, Cam Newton being here. So yeah, but I do think they have some things that need to work out and that Bill needs to handle. We could touch on his is very similar quote to 01 when he just mentioned, "Oh yeah, we're gonna do his best for do his best for the team." Sounds very much as TEAM as a team. That's what Mr. Coward's paying me for. That's what that sounds like. So I think we see 4 on Sunday, but like I said, we'll get into that. But yeah, just for this week solely, I think that not having a set plan, to stop me from rambling at this moment, I just think that played a large part into what happened yesterday.
Yeah, aside from like Zappe's 2 touchdowns sprint that happened in 2 consecutive possessions, the Bears dominated this game. I mean, it wasn't close. 33-14, like that's still a faraway score, but it wasn't even that close. And, Dave, we've talked about this a lot. I've talked about it a lot. This reinforced my belief that the Patriots should have done whatever they needed to do to get Justin Fields, because, and again, I'm not knocking the Bears, but on paper, if you compare the skill players for the Bears and the skill players for the New England Patriots just right now, we are like the 2004 fucking Colts compared to your roster. Like, we have better players on paper, but Justin Fields, man, he is showing up. So what do you think this game will do for his confidence and for the overall confidence of that offense?
Yeah, I mean, I think that to look at the Bears right now, obviously it's a complete rebuild and there's a ton of like sort of unknowns about this team. But what I also think is the depth of talent available in today's NFL. And we talk so much about the parity across the league right now. And I think that has a lot to do with the fact that there's a million good football players out there. The margins are so small between like the million good football players and then the Pat Mahomes of the world. It reminds me of that Scal quote, like, I'm closer to LeBron than you are to me, right? So it just seems like a ton of talent. So with that, I think you can go and do something along the lines of trade Khalil Mack, trade Akeem Hicks, make these package deals, get yourself a bunch of 3rd and 4th and sprinkle in a couple 2nd-round picks and go build yourself a defense, a good young athletic defense, which is what we did. As much as you are definitely correct when you say that, like, on paper, roster to roster, you guys have way more skill players. You definitely have a better defense on paper. There's guys emerging, and they have been, as much as we haven't been getting the W's, there's guys emerging in Chicago that makes me think at least that we did a really good job collecting good young talent over the course of the offseason. We even had a really unlucky injury hit with our starting center going down, who we just got back at the start of the game, and they still made the adjustment. I think that, yes, it's huge for Justin Fields, but the big thing I noticed is that the coaching staff decided to start trusting him to win the game for them. They decided to say, we're running our, you guys listen to me until I was fucking blue in the face. I'm sure you were bored of hearing it during the Matt Nagy year last year with Fields. It's like, if you don't build your offense around him and give him the opportunity to succeed, he's not going to. And I'm happy to lose a game on the merit of Justin Fields. No problem. Like, I just want the ball to be in his hands and have him be making the decisions. And the thing that I noticed game plan wise was, I think I don't know the numbers, but I think we might have converted more 3rd downs than like any team ever. Monday Night Football. Like, every single 3rd down, we just converted. And in the reverse, we kept putting the Patriots in 3rd and long situations, which is obviously a frustrating thing for you guys to watch. And it was funny, because I did get a little worried when Zappe came in and threw a couple bombs, but like, we probably game planned all week for an underneath style quarterback, a guy who was trying to hit us like low and in the cover 2 spot. And to get hit a couple of times on the long bomb, I was like, okay, let's make some adjustments. At the end of the day, when you guys are in a position where like you said, 2 quarterbacks equals 0 quarterbacks, that's an easy team to beat, that's an easy team to beat. The way you do it is you make whichever quarterback's out there beat you. And Zappe looked like he was about to do it, but we weren't blitzing him. We were just covering his guys. And it's like, dude, if you can do it, but you can't. You're not Aaron Rodgers, you're not Tom Brady, you're not and once the game started to sort of get away from them, I think that's a tough spot to put him in. But what I will say is Zappe looks really talented, man. Like, I really think he had an uphill battle. It was a little unfair, the situation he was thrown into. I think hindsight's 2020, but he probably should have started the game. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I wonder, we dominated, sure, but I wonder how much of that domination was tone set from the jump and what the game would have looked like if Zappe had have actually, like I was just sort of alluding to with Justin Fields, you got to give your guy the opportunity to win the game for you. You can't have him digging up for, from the time he steps into the game. You can't have him trying to climb his way out of a hole. So I wouldn't panic too much about the result because I think it was a really big hill to climb, and I just think we executed a good game plan. And it looks to me like Bailey Zappe's your guy. If Mac Jones starts again, who are you guys playing next week?
The Jets.
That's actually tough because they look decent. If Mac Jones starts again, I think at this point that's a dereliction of duty. You got to go with the hot hand. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I feel like if Zappe starts that game, I don't think it gets away from you quite as easily. At least. Here's a question I have for you guys, though. I mean, the kind of the storyline I was getting going into this was that Mac Jones was bitching. Tell me if this is rumor, if this is fact. I'm sure you guys are more plugged in on this than I am, but Mac Jones has been bitching about the offense apparently for this season because I don't blame him because a failed defensive coordinator is now your offensive coordinator, which makes absolutely no fucking sense. But I'm sure you've gotten into that, or we will at some point. But he's been bitching about it, and he says he was saying, correct me if I'm wrong, that the New England style offense is establishing the run, intelligently picking play action plays and marching down the field. And he's like, what's all this motion? What's all these like kind of out routes and long balls? What is this shit? So then the kind of unfair thing that happened is they simplify the offense for Zappe back to that when he comes in. And Mac Jones says, well, now if I can run that offense, we'll be even better. And it seems like that's what they were trying to do. It's not as if they went back to the Mac Jones offense. They were trying to get Mac Jones to run essentially a new offense for him, right? He's been running all year. And I just think it's this thing of like, once you pick the wrong choice, then you try to correct, then you try to correct again. And it's like, it just doesn't seem like he's doing the simplest thing, Bill. Just do the simplest thing.
It's exactly what you just said, though, right? About Matt Nagy and Justin Fields. Like, you're okay with losing a game if you lose on the merits of Justin Fields.
Absolutely.
But you didn't feel like they were doing what they needed to do to build the team around him. I think previous to this game, like that could be a strong argument for Mac Jones. I think if there was ever any doubt about his health, don't play him against Chicago and get him ready for the Jets. But he looks skittish. He missed wide open throws, wide open targets to the same Jacoby Myers and did checkdowns to Ramondre Stevenson or Damian Harris. I really don't know. I was going to say this. I was going to ask this to Ray. It's, what do you do now? Like, because after this game, it would have been so much easier for everybody involved if what Zappe did in those first two possessions carried on, even if we lost the game. But because of how bad he was in the second half, what do you do next week?
I'm still riding with Zappe. That's where I'm at right now.
With you.
You say, oh yeah, so I'm like that's where I'm at. And once again, I'm past the protecting feeling stage. I'm past that. I was astonished, and that's that. And I can't think of a different word, but that's the word that comes to mind right away. And how much I saw, how much I saw on Twitter, like, man, I feel bad for Mac Jones. I fucking what? Like, I mean, what? And I know Twitter wasn't around in 01 when that stuff went down with Drew Bledsoe, but I'm like, I'm pretty sure had Twitter been around then, it would have been like, oh shit, man, we fuck around with this Brady kid, like, shit, man, fuck Drew. That's what it would have been. Now, once again, you and I, Mike, we talked about, it's been stated about us being, Boston Celtics at the time. But hey, at the end of the day, the results justified the means. Like, they won a Super Bowl. We see the video. I said I get you here. Like, that's where, and I think that's what people are trying to make this into. And I think had he came out and had another 300-yard performance, we definitely would have started him trade to Carolina on November 1st. That would have happened. And it's so great what happened. And if Zappe starts on Sunday and goes, 25 or 40 for 310 yards, 2 touchdowns and no picks, and they beat the New York Jets for him to go past George Halas, that's nothing we were talking about either. Chicago was definitely new. They knew what history was going to be made last night. They answered the call like that. I mean, I haven't seen that take, but they answered the call. They knew if Bill won last night, they were going to pass George Halas. And yes, no one in that organization was around when George Halas was there. But it was like, look, no.
I mean, he's in the walls though, man. You know, his initials are on the jersey. It's you got it's part of the class.
That's Gil Sayers. That's Gil Sayers. That's not
No, it isn't. GSA is just George Hallis.
It's not. I thought Gil Sayers was there. Okay, but yeah, but yeah. Either way, they was like not on their not on their watch. So Craig, I know you had something to say, so chime in, brother.
So I would like to point out, I just want to get the pulse of the people on this one. So I put a poll out last week, and we put it on the 617 feed. Who should start this week versus the Chicago Bears? Mac Jones or Bailey Zappe? It was about 75 to 25. It should be Bailey Zappe. Same poll went out today. Sample size is big enough. It's 67% Mac Jones and 33% Bailey Zappe.
What's the good thing that people aren't making these fucking decisions?
but doesn't it feel like they kind of are? Now, Dave, you're the best person to judge this because you are not as brainwashed as Ray and I are with the Patriots. If I was to tell you that Bill Belichick would not tell the media or really any of his players who the starting quarterback was going to be in the game, play his number 15 overall pick for 3 series, then bench him, and then in the post game or then in halftime say, well, we plan to play both of them in the second half. Would you have ever believed that clown show would be occurring in New England?
No, that's a pretty wild thing to think about Bill Belichick doing, because it's a conventional wisdom thing in the NFL. It's one of those things that's never worked. It's one of those things that is definitely going to fail. And I unless Bill's, the only thing I could kind of try to put into perspective and understand, unless he's just looking at this season as tryouts as a whole, across the whole squad, and he's just saying like, we're not going to win shit this year, so like let me just put both of these guys in as many situations as I can before I decide on who's going to be who. Knowing that you're probably not going to win a ton of football games, but maybe just not thinking about it like that. Maybe that's it. But to me, from an opposing fan's perspective last night, like Mac Jones, I was never, ever scared that Mac Jones was going to beat us. Like I was at no point before kickoff, like before the game, like I was like perfect quarterback to be playing us with the kind of defense we play. We like let him run the ball, and like I saw people on Twitter being like, "Oh, here we go." He's moving. I'm like, dude, if you're losing to Mac Jones scrambling, then like you don't deserve to be in the fucking NFL. Like, go ahead, like go off, dude, please. Like, take your 15-yard scramble, like whatever. But like at the end of the day, you're gonna have to try to win through the air. On the other hand, I think Bailey Zappe has that. He definitely has downsides, like intangible downsides that you can see. Like I think like his size might be a little bit of a worry. I think he's, the gloves thing is weird. I don't know if his hands are small or whatever. But he's got that thing, I just think he's got that thing. The thing that you saw him, I'm not saying he's Joe Burrow, but the thing that everybody liked about Joe Burrow when he first came on the scene, there's just a sort of a quiet confidence there. He said all the right things after the game, and it's just, to me, it's like you're gonna need to pick, regardless of whatever the fucking poll seems to say. Like you're gonna need to pick, and honestly, if it were me, and like this is just how I think a lot of the time, you go with the guy with the spark. You go with the dude with the spark. I just don't know if Bill Belichick thinks that way, but he knows he's forgotten more about football than I'll ever know. So I'm sure whatever he does, the right thing.
He's seen the same thing we've seen, Dave. Like I'm saying, immediately when Zappe came in last night,
right,
the defense gets a turnover.
Yeah.
They're moving quicker. Like, so that spark that you're talking about was there. Once again, I think because he's still learning the offense, it's obviously just more of a tape on him now. The running game has to supplement what he's doing, and you guys did an excellent job of shutting down Harris, shutting down Stevenson. So when those two guys aren't running, because those are the two best players on offense for us, it was like, okay, now like you said, you're forcing him to beat us. And yeah, he's not there yet where he's the variables have to be perfect right now or close to perfect for them to have a chance. But when you turn the ball over, not once, not twice, not 3 times, but 4 times in the game, and you don't have the greatest quarterback on time, you don't have other great players at their position, like you're going to be, at the fault there. So
Those kind of mistakes happen when you don't have a decided leader leading your offense. That's when those mistakes happen. Like you're regardless of, because the question essentially is, based on everything you've seen right now, who's the better quarterback? Like that's what you're asking yourself. Who's the guy you're gonna ride with? Bill's saying essentially, like, he's not having this argument. He's saying, I don't know yet. I gotta still watch and fucking figure it out. Which, if you really think about it, is fair. But it's a fair perspective to have if he does have that perspective, right? It's like, I don't know, man. I drafted this fucking kid pretty high, 15th overall. He was a serviceable quarterback in his first year, like probably the best first year quarterback of the draft class last year, for being
Pro Bowler.
Right. Yeah.
Technically a Pro Bowler.
Yep.
And going into an offense that seems to suit his style, right? I don't know if Bailey Zappe's like, can Bill Belichick game plan for Bailey Zappe? Like, can he draw up an offense for Bailey Zappe? Because he's never really played with a quarterback like that before, And right. I think maybe in Belichick's head there might be, and obviously he will do what's best for the team, but is a little bit in his head going like, man, I need it to be Mac that works out because we've done too much work around him already.
Well, I don't know if it's necessarily Bill having that thought process. Is what is Kraft saying? Because the Kraft is saying, hey, we took him at 15. He's getting the contract, and you're here to play a cycle all the time. Your contract determines playing time. Period. Like whether the first, second, or like if you have a big contract, you're going to get more opportunities to succeed or fail. Once again, it depends on what's happening behind the scenes. I think that they've had that conversation, and once again, Kraft is obviously older. Belichick's obviously older. They're not at a point where they can say, well, we can do a 5-year plan at this moment. That's not where they're at.
Right.
Either figure it out. This is not a throwaway year. I know it looks like it because of what's going on there being 3 or 4, but you cannot spend the money you spent last year in the offseason,
right, and
say, oh, it's because we're not going to go to the. And once again, think about just how tapped, how warped that sense of mind, that sense of perspective is, right? When you say, well, we're not going to the Super Bowl. Well, most teams aren't, right? But the goal is to get to the playoffs. Be fucking, productive in some area. Like, right. show us something to look forward to. And right now they haven't. I mean, we had 2 games in a row where they did, but this was a soft part of the schedule, as everyone kept saying. And it's like, once again, Chicago backed us up.
You can't have a year in training after you spend $250 million on free agents. You just can't. You can't do that. And we had a pretty good 2-game stretch, but again, it was against the Lions and the Browns, and not the Browns with Deshaun. So Chicago, for what I would say for the first time in, I don't know, how long was Matt Nagy the coach? 4 years?
Yeah.
So for the first time, let's say the last 5 years, seems to have a pretty cohesive coaching staff, and they're not going to lie down for you. And you cannot I'm talking about the Patriots style, you cannot let a team walk into your house and rush the ball 45 times for 243 yards and expect to win. Because whether it's Zappe time or whether it's the return of the Mac, neither of those boys can throw you to a victory. They cannot come
back. Not now. Not right now.
Can't do it.
It might. I just to add like some slight perspective on what I can obviously tell you guys are going through. There might be a world, and this would be great for me and honestly good for you guys. There might be a world where you just caught the Bears on the worst possible night. Like I just think that, like, having watched them all season, this is the thing I started off saying in this podcast, is having watched them all season, the almost there games. And Justin Fields even said, like, he's like, I'm fucking sick of being almost there, dude. I think I added the fuck, but it's a Boston sports podcast. But I think he was like, I'm sick of being almost there. It's time to go get this shit done. We've watched enough sports in our life where you can sort of tell the media training a little bit, not always, but you can sort of tell the media training answers from the actual answers. And I think that Justin Fields has actually done a pretty bad job in his discussions with the media this year. But what it's done is given me kind of an insight into what's going on, in the locker room. And I think that this is a unit that's really together, and they needed this game to come together to happen in the context that it did in order to show what I think they think is a much better football team than their record shows, and a much better football team than like the national media seems to appraise them as. And the youth and sort of vigor of the team showed out because it finally clicked. And a lot of that was going Thursday night to Monday night, having extra time to work. There's a lot of reports coming out from the GM, basically saying like, you know, credit to the coaching staff because they kind of took stock of the things that weren't going right, and alluding to sort of like previous regimes in Chicago, maybe like not just sticking with it because like whatever, just actually making adjustments and trying to get the best out of your players. And like, if all that's true and you go on to see a Chicago Bears team that, like, again, I'm not saying they're going to go win the Super Bowl, but they, you know, they start winning some games, and secretly that division's fucking up for grabs.
Yep.
And that's sort of on the horizon. Do you look back at this game and go like, okay, maybe we caught them on the worst possible night of their season, and that was the smack in the mouth we needed? Because it's like, I mean, yeah, they went. Maybe the Bears go on to have a relatively successful rest of the season. Who knows what's going to happen? But sometimes you do have to get your ass kicked. Sometimes you do have to hit bottom. And I think that is what happened in New England last night. I'm not rubbing it in. I'm saying it happened early enough where you can sort of assess the damage now and be like, okay, we'll go from here. Or is that just
No, I mean that better be the narrative. That better be the the message. Obviously, we know how much Bill hates the Jets for whatever reason. Like obviously,
for whatever reason, we know the reason.
No. I'm saying, but I mean, between it being a rival and obviously something happened behind the scenes, obviously, that we all know about. But it's like I feel like they do have. I don't know if they're going to equate to a win Sunday, but they're going to have a bounce back performance against New York win.
You got it.
I believe that.
It's a division,
right? But I mean, it doesn't mean that they're actually going to win the game. But let's say you have the Jets and then you have the Colts, so. It's like you have to find a way. They could turn in and be 5-4 by the time the bye week is there. I doubt that, but like I said, once again, if you're going to make anything of your season, that has to happen.
How much do you think the fact that Monday was a home game factored into his quarterback decision? Because like if you're going to put like a previously injured Mac Jones back in against a team you should be beating, like you said, Mike, on paper. I wonder if it's like, well, let's give the kid the best possible chance to win it. And also, how worried are you that is such a friendly environment for Mac to have come into, regardless of, yeah, he fucked up and they started chanting like Bailey Zappe, whatever. If he had two or three good possessions, just decent possessions to start the game off, that wouldn't have happened. That was that crowd was fucking, I could hear it through the TV. That crowd was going. Yep. So I wonder how much was you, and like Bailey Zappe fed off that. Mac Jones rejected it a little bit. I wonder, is that a worry? Like, is his head fucked?
So two things. I think that the fan response or what we heard last night, that was another reason as to why Mac never came back into that game. Because
you weren't doing Mac any favors if he comes back.
Right. Because if he comes back in, even if Zappe, shit the bed in the second half, I think it was 26-14 when there was like 5 minutes left in the third. That was the time to do it. Like, if you're going to bring him back in to see what you got, if you believe in the kid, that's when you bring him back in. But I think that, this is a whole nother rant, but Boston sports fans, or Patriot fans, for you to turn on somebody that quick after the reign of terror that we've just gone through over the last 22 years with the consistent quarterback, like, you're not doing yourself any favors. You guys look like idiots because you have teams like, Dave, again, I'm not calling your team out, but imagine what you would say to Bears fans if this year, if Justin Fields gets hurt, their backup, whoever the fuck it is, comes in and goes 2-0, and now they're chanting for the backup's name when Justin Fields starts again. Like, you look like morons.
It's not gonna happen, and I'll tell you
right.
Why. Because we've been taught patience with the whip, not with the carrot. Like we have a perspective on the Justin Fields situation that you guys maybe are a little bit unlucky not to have. I mean, I doubt there was a Patriots fan on the planet yesterday that wasn't scratching that little itch at the back of their brain when Bailey Zappe came in and threw 2 fucking dimes to the Casa or whatever, that, almost to the Casa, basically came in and started winning the game for the Patriots. There's no Patriots. I was thinking it. There's no Patriots fan that wasn't like, oh, I've seen this situation before. Like I've seen a guy come out of
it felt different. It felt.
I felt it too. I was like, son of a bitch. Like I really was like, fuck. Like we came in, we executed a great game plan. We were 9 miles deep in this dude's head. Roquan Smith's assignment was to fucking kidnap and torture Mac Jones for the remainder of the game. Obviously, it was like spy him, hit him, pressure him, pick him off. Like he was just like he was reading his head. He was fucking screen sniping him. And I think that the moment with Zappe, there's no world that in which everybody wasn't going, oh, is this happening again? And if you don't know what this is, why are you listening to this podcast? But
right,
if that's like you have that moment in your head, you got to ride with that. You got to ride the lightning, Okay, it didn't go well in that game, but like it's a long season. Ride the lightning. Zappe the lightning.
Ray, why did it look like Mac Jones was working harder to win the game for his team when he was in, and then when Bailey Zappe was in, it looked like the team was working harder to win the team? Did you notice that?
You like him?
I think that's but DK said it. He just said it perfectly. Like I think there's a belief they now have when they see him, and maybe because they see him quietly go about his business during practice, they see that he's picking up the offense, whether it's simplistic or not. He's picking up things. He's making good reads, when he's out there for the most part. And I just think that, Dave said earlier in the show, there's a quiet confidence that he has in this game. And let me say this, right? Because obviously he didn't go to a Power 5 school, so people were like, oh, like he went to Western Kentucky. 62 touchdowns is 62 touchdowns. Period.
6,000 yards too.
Yeah, 6,000 yards. So he clearly can sling it. Clearly, you don't have those type of numbers if you can't sling it. And I just think that, and I said this to some friends of mine. I said the more reps he gets, the better he looks like he's getting really by the drive. And that's what happened for the most part. He clearly has the rapport with Devontae Parker that Mac Jones doesn't have. It's just not there. Every time Mac was on Devontae, it was basically
a pick.
It was basically a pick, yeah. You know what I'm saying? Or it was getting swatted down. So also too, maybe Devontae is fighting harder to get to the ball with Zappe than he was with Mac. Who knows? But I just know that the swagger that they have when he was on the field is there. And once again, and I want to speak to Dave's point about the quarterbacks here, because I don't know. I haven't heard too many say this, but once again, this is why we are who we are. We went from 93 to 2020, so we had 27 years of Bledsoe or Brady. And people can say what they want about what Bledsoe became when he went to Buffalo and Dallas. His eight seasons in New England, once again, ended up becoming a $100 million quarterback. Got us to the Super Bowl against Green Bay. Multiple game winners. Got us to the Super Bowl against Pittsburgh. You know what I'm saying? This is why we got back.
Great. Would have been really happy. Guys won that. I've never been a bigger Patriots fan than that day, but we didn't know each other yet.
Oh God, gotcha. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So it was just like that. That's where. So I'm like almost 30 years of having like where the Green Bay.
Good point.
You had the Green Bay situation. Yeah. Like when you go from Favre to Rodgers, and it's like. That's why people were like, wait, we had Jordan Love with somebody else. Like, well, what's going on? But I just think that when you've had stability at that position, and then now it's like it's now the most uncertain position on the team. Just about that's where the switch up happens, Mike. So it's not out of nowhere. Most of us grew up watching Drew Bledsoe. Then obviously we saw Brady dominate. So it's like, yo, we're pissed off and we're impatient. That in the other way, you know what I'm saying? So it's not necessarily, oh, we look like idiots, because once again, I'm far now. You was calling me an idiot, but I'm like, I was also like, man, fuck the feelings. I don't care about what he's feeling right now. I want to get back to y'all's.
But my point is,
it's the division around. Period.
But my point is, I don't think I agree with you that the fan base has been trained to be like this because of the success that they found. They are victims of their own success, but I'm not 100. My whole point is I'm not 100% sure they're wrong. Like it like the eye test is the eye test. And to me, from someone who's not even like, didn't get that fucking 1993 onwards training, didn't get that fucking years and years of success at Tom Brady. He just looks like the better quarterback, So There has to be. Yes, I agree that there is all that context. You're absolutely right. It's a good point, and I see it play out in your fan base. I listen to you guys talk about it all the time. I hear, I read your conversations in the Discord, but that doesn't mean they're wrong. Is my only point. That doesn't. It is fickle. It isn't necessarily, and I totally agree why you have the reaction you have when the fan base does that, and when they sound like that in the stadium and it's getting tweeted out. It's not a good look for the fan base. I get it, totally, but doesn't mean they're wrong. The dude looks like a better QB. I know he didn't look good in the second half. We made some good adjustments. You may have caught us on the wrong night, but damn, man, like Mac Jones looks to me like he could potentially be a serviceable quarterback for the New England Patriots and get them to a certain place. But at the end of the day, you live inside a fucking quarterback centric league. If you don't have a guy that's in a certain tier at the quarterback position, you can fucking never even hope to win a ring in today's NFL. Right. That's just the way it is. A lot of the reason that's the way it is your guys' fucking fault. So at the end of the day, not you two specifically, but the New England Patriots, that's a lot of the rules that make it that way are based around a certain Tom Brady. So this is the situation you're in. Whether you like it or not, and the fuck your feelings point is great. Whether you like it or not, Mac Jones does not look like he has that thing. He does not look like he's going to lift a Lombardi trophy because of what he did in the biggest NFL game, which is the biggest sport in this country on the biggest fucking night of the year. I just don't see it. Now, I'm not saying I'm not saying Zappe does.
Freudian slipped.
Yeah, I know. I was just having that thought. I'm not saying Bailey Zappe does, but he looks like he might. So you got to roll the dice on that. And I think that's what the fan base was chanting out. I think that's what the fan base was saying. Because at the end of the day, you know who Mac Jones is. And I just don't think he's that dude.
Based on how this game played out, I have two questions. First one, I'll just ask them both to each of you. Before this game, and I would say like before the Cleveland game, it was always thought that Bailey Zappe he was playing to establish himself as a serviceable backup. Mm. Now it kind of looks like the roles are reversed, and Mac's fighting to stay relevant and be in the NFL. Troy Aikman said it on the broadcast. At 8:15 p.m., we did not have a quarterback controversy. At 9:15, we do. So knowing what you've seen, the progression of Bailey Zappe, I'm going to ask you first, Dave, because you're, again, an outsider, quote unquote. The progression of Bailey Zappe and the regression of Mac Jones. Did Bill Belichick do either of them any favors last night based on how he went about talking about the playing time and how he went about assigning it? Because if you're Mac Jones, you get pulled after 3 series, going 3 for 6 and a pick. How do you feel confident about this being your team moving forward?
Well, I mean, quite frankly, are you trying to do Mac Jones any favors? Is there a world in which
you drafted him?
Yeah, but like whatever. If he's fucking mentally weak, you got to find that shit out now. If he's gonna crumble, the second there's any sort of pressure on his job, something that Ray's point. Oh, fuck it. We had Tom Brady all these years. We watched all this greatness. You know who else watched that? Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick has a certain fucking standard he's asking for from his quarterbacks. And it's not about throwing power. And it's never been about throwing power. And it's not about accuracy. And it's never been about accuracy because Tom Brady became the greatest quarterback in the history of the NFL because of who he was. He legitimately, I don't know what his fucking personal life or whatever is, but I watched that man be the most stone cold, ice cold motherfucker ever. Multiple times. That's why Tom Brady was Tom Brady. He doesn't have the fucking stats that some other guys have. I mean, longevity wise, he does. But he was the guy he was because there's no world in which he regresses if Bailey Zappe is fucking looking for his job. He's gonna get better. Those three series are some of the best you've seen from Tom Brady all fucking season if he's in that same exact context. And if Mac Jones crumbles, that just showed Bill Belichick everything he needed to know about Mac Jones, about his character, about what's inside him, about what he can dig up when he needs to for his team. And quite frankly, it wasn't much. So I think it says a lot that Bill Belichick was like, I've seen enough.
Playing off of what Dave just mentioned, Belichick had a front row seat to Brady for the last 20 years. We all know that Brady was often splitting time at Michigan with Drew Henson because he was never anointed as the guy. Is this the modern day Michigan? But ultimately Mac Jones is Drew Henson and Bailey Zappe is Tom Brady. Not actually Tom Brady.
You heard it here
But
first.
but in this scenario,
Bailey Zappe is Tom Brady.
yeah, but in this scenario, Ray, is that how it feels to you? Because it does look like to me that everybody, for whatever reason, rallies around Zappe, and the game is just smoother. Even when it's bad, it looks better than when it was quote unquote good in the first game with Mac this year.
But even we don't even go that far back. We can take it to Mac's former teammate who's now in Miami. This is him and Tua. This is what's going on. They had that platoon system down there as well, and obviously they both turned out to be national champions. Because of the talent surrounding him. Now Patriots fans that have listened to the show, this is why I was clamoring for them to get John Mechie. Who won't play this year, but but
I mean, that just sucks that I said that.
Yeah, I know, but that's what we're not going to go to. But I'm like, it's just like
he'll play.
Yeah,
He'll play.
He'll play. That one of the best calls of 2022 by far. But anyways, that's why I was clamoring for him to get someone from Alabama outside of the running back, because I was like, okay, if he has that familiarity there, and you see what's happening down there with Tua, with Jalen Waddle, and the crew like that, you have someone there that you were comfortable throwing to, which is why they're tearing it up down there, in South Beach. But yeah, back to the Zappe thing, man. I just think that we've seen Mac even throw a tantrum on the sideline, like Tom, right? But we've also seen the moments where Tom has sat there, with his head down and just, all right, like, okay, I got to do this, I got to do that. Zappe hasn't gotten there yet, but we haven't seen him blow up on
He's too busy singing Stacy's Mom.
Sure, which is a phenomenal song. But, one of my favorites of all time. But I just think, it ties back to the id factor that Dave was talking about earlier. Whatever it is, it seems like he has it, and he's calm, he's cool, he's collected. That's what you need to be able to play in the system, to play under Bill. And I think that's what he's showing in practice. I think that he showed it on the sidelines. And so when all that is coupled together, that's when you'll see him become the full-time starter, in my opinion. And, who knows, Mac might become, because I'm only saying this name because it's a Chicago-based show, Mac might fuck around and become the next Mike Glennon. And that's awful.
Yeah, that is terrifying. Any final takeaways on this game from your perspective, DK?
Yeah, I mean, overall, like I don't want to I don't think either of us should go too far in either direction. I don't think that the Bears winning the way that they did mean that we're going to win the NFC North, although it did make me think that. And I don't think the Patriots means that your season is flunked. You still have the best coach in football. You're still the best coach in the history of football. And it's there's worse problems to have than a potentially really good quarterback usurping your current quarterback, and those growing pains being necessary to go through. And unfortunately, what's part of those growing pains most of the time, which you maybe didn't experience as badly with Drew and Tom, but what's part of those growing pains is losing fucking games and trying to figure out your offense. So I will say the one thing we didn't talk about, and the one thing I would be worried about, is the idea that Matt Patricia is scheming for either of these guys. Doesn't matter who's your QB. You have
not good.
Genuinely one of the weakest football minds I've ever seen on either side of the ball, trying to determine the future of two young guys. And I, quite frankly, I think both of them deserve better than that. But otherwise, I mean, genuinely, I think Bill Belichick is like, I hope you get a salary this year, buddy. You're not doing anything. He's obviously scheming every fucking part of this football team. But at the end of the day, that's a huge issue that needs to be sorted out. And of course, you can't beat Bill Belichick out at this point. That's crazy. But I do think that the coaching staff needs to take responsibility for what's going on more than two kids, trying to play quarterback for your team. And I think it's on them to do right by those two guys. And I hope that they do.
I will just say to you, DK, as long as the number one team in your division is quarterbacked by Kirk Cousins, you have a shot.
It's open, baby.
Always have a shot.
It's all open. Let's game in prime time, Kirk.
That's right. Ray, your final positive takeaways from the Monday Night Massacre.
That we need to see more of Zappe still. That's the takeaway. Yep. I think that the spark is there. Yes, going 11-15, I think from 156 is not, obviously breathtaking numbers, but I think that we will see another performance closer to what we saw against Cleveland coming into next week. So, let him know that he's a starter for the full fucking week, Bill. Not playing hot potato with the quarterback position. Because that part I would say, like, you got to make sure that you're being fair to both guys. Look, tell him what's going on. Don't leave once again, you won't leave us in the dark. Cool.
Tell the whole team what's going on. Tell them who their leader is.
Say who's that so they can rally behind him, even though their players showing who they're rallying behind. But four should be starting not just Sunday, but I think really the rest of the year. And it's unfortunate to say, because I think once again he had some good moments last year, and we need Mac Jones. But once again, I'm in the business of I want to see us at least get to the playoffs and have a chance to compete. And I could care less about how you're feeling. If that's the case, if you're that guy, then find a way to step the fuck up. Step up or step aside.
Now I think we can all collectively be miserable for this final portion. I mean, miserable is an exaggeration. We hit the Boston Celtics hit the first speed bump in their 82-game fuck you tour when they lost 120-102 to the Chicago Bulls in a game in which I believe in the first quarter, second quarter that they led by as much as 16, and then they lost. They were down by as much as 19 by the third quarter. The head coach is ejected. Grant Williams is ejected. This might go down. This is a quote, paraphrasing. Might go down in history as one of the worst officiated games that someone on this show tonight has ever.
Are you quoting me?
Yeah.
I'm honored.
You always quote the greats. So DK, what are your takeaways from this 120-102 beatdown by the Bulls that the Celtics had to go through?
I'm glad I'm going first because I know how Ray feels about this. So I'm just going to try my best to offer some perspective before you go, because I get it. I know everything you're about to say, and I totally agree with you already. However, I'm fine. I'm honestly fine. I mean, the positives still completely outweigh the negatives for me on the start of this Celtics season. If the three of us plus Craig chiming in with polls, we're here to talk about the Celtics going into the season, I think, and we were presented with the idea that we were 3-1 across 4 games. Whatever that one loss was, we would have been fine with it. Like I believe truly that we played 4 really good teams across these 4 games, and I believe that about Chicago. I believe that they might have been the worst of the 4 that we played, and it might have been the game we should have won, but it was a pretty hostile arena. And again, the officiating was laughably bad. Like, and I'm not talking Tommy Heinsohn. I'm biased for the Celtics. Like, the commentators were and I was watching the Bulls perspective on NBA League Pass, and the commentators were like, "Ooh, well, okay, I guess we got that call too." I mean, it was so bad, and I just think it felt a little like, all right, slow your roll there, Boston Celtics. Like, let's see what's going on. Like, Grant getting ejected for like getting up and like accidentally bumping that ref. Like, what the fuck was that? Like, I love when my coaches get thrown out. It's like one of my favorite things for a coach to do.
But what did Mazzola even do?
Doesn't even matter. Just get thrown out. Fuck it. Just get yourself thrown out as much as possible. It's honestly what you're fucking there for, is to just like rally the fucking troops. We're talking about this as a 4-game run. Then we're talking about Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown playing better together than they ever have. Like a wing pairing that are both dropping 30+ a night up until this point. We're talking about Jaylen Brown clearly going up a level, looking like one of the best penetrating basketball players in the NBA, looking like a first-team All-NBA guy. We're talking about Jason Tatum looking across the first 3 games like an MVP candidate. We're definitely talking about looking shallow at the 5, quote unquote. I know we're doing positionless basketball, but let's be honest, we're real short right now as a basketball team. And we're talking about stuff that could go wrong, but honestly, like, damn, they did look on a mission until the Chicago game. And I know Ray's going to talk about the defense, so I'm not going to get into that yet, because I do sort of agree with him there, but I feel good. I feel like this Boston Celtics team looks good. I feel like Malcolm Brogdon is a perfect addition. I think he's got a beautiful shot. I love watching it. I think that a lot of the kind of end of the bench guys are trying to looking well to prove their stake in a kind of hurt area of the team. And I think that the Jays are looking mighty good at basketball. So 1 loss, 3 wins. I'm good. I'm good.
before Ray combats the power of positivity with his doom and gloom, I will say you can't win. You can't go 82-0. But Ray, wouldn't the most concerning part of this of these first 4 games be the fact that you're allowing just under 119 points per game? Like that is very un-Celtic like.
Right. That's the fucking joke. It's a joke. And the slight correction, it's not a big correction. Orlando's the worst team they faced so far. Like the Chicago team is giving help.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Game.
Yeah, I'm letting
Yeah, right. Sorry.
Listen.
No, you're totally right about that. That was like that game came and went for me.
Your problem. And he showed it on Saturday.
No, you're right.
I'm excited. I'm excited to talk about that rookie of the year stuff when we get to it at some point. But yeah, allowing 119 a game. And once again, we saw, and I think Scalabrini mentioned it on the podcast, on the broadcast last night. When they were showing little chinks in their armor defensively the first 2 games, but because Tatum and Brown had big nights, or Derek White had a big night, somebody else always supplemented what was going on offensively, and they played defense for about a good 8-minute stretch in each of those games that helped them surpass it. Last night it was just like it was up 35-16, and they reverted back to the first half of last year. It was like, all right, we're up. And once again, this is the same shit that happened. That's why I'm really mad. I wasn't mad. It's the same fucking opponent. It's the same time of the year. If people remember last year, I think it was November 7th last year. No, November 1st. And I was there. It was my first game at TD Garden. I was there. I'm like, okay, cool. We're doing our thing, and we're smacking Chicago. And all of a sudden, we're down 28 fucking points. And I'm just like, what is going on? So I'm tired of seeing these performances happen against the Bulls. And maybe, and once again, if y'all know me, I'm going to go, I always go to the archives. If you remember the Celtics teams in the 2000s, there's always, you always have teams that you're like, man, whatever we face them, it's always going to be a dog fight. So I think right now it's been Chicago. Even Detroit, BK can back me up on that one. But in the 2000s, it was Milwaukee, right? So whether it was Michael Redd there, Ray Allen, the other Urban Johnson, type that name in Google for those that don't know it, but the other Urban Johnson, Sam Cassell, whoever it may be, right? Milwaukee was just always a house of horrors there. So maybe that's what it's becoming. Maybe that's what it's turning into. Needless to say, cannot have that type of lead. Also to Tatum, to have 15 in the first quarter where you're giving everybody that work. It was a Chi-Town 2-step out there. He was getting everyone work. And it just disappeared. Once again, if I want to see a disappearing act, I'm going to look at David Blaine or Chris Angel. I don't need to see you disappear on the court. That's where I'm at right now. It's that simple. So that's what I was mad about. The defense is trash. And I want to say this, and I hope that Dave, you back me up on this. If not, it's okay. I will stand on this island alone. I'm ready to trade Grant Williams, and the reason why I say this, not because of anything he's done on the court. Like, obviously, he's been great. He's totally taking a step up as well. He's the only player on the bench right now that you can give value for somebody if you trade him. So maybe you have to package Payton too. I don't know. Sorry, Bobby, but Payton Pritchard's no longer really a key guy in the rotation. He's just not.
Yeah, well, I mean, you saw the guys come out when we decided the game was over, and Payton Pritchard let him out like a fucking little troop to the slaughter. I was like,
yeah, exactly. You know what I'm saying? So I think, to me, and we talked about this on the show during the summer. We brought this guy's name. I'm about to say again. Call Sacramento and say, what is it going to take for us to get Rashawn Holmes?
Oh, be still.
Yeah, it's like you have to address that. Like, we cannot wait till December for Rob to come back to say, all right, well, it's cool. And once again, yes, I love what I see from Noah Vonleh in the preseason. Blake Griffin still hasn't done much yet, but I think he'll have his moments throughout the season. That's cool. I'm not expecting much from Luke Cornett. I'm not expecting much. And like I said, once again, Alex hit a wall so far. Once again, he usually picks it up later on in the season, but he's hit a wall so far. So to alleviate some minutes from him, and once again, sometimes you have to do addition by subtraction. Grant Williams has been awesome here. He has gotten better every year. He has come a long way from me and Mike clamored for him to get dealt, and then me and Mike was going to drive him to Logan Airport ourselves and say happy trails. He's come a long way. However, if you're looking to get someone of substance to come back and help that front court, because that's what their biggest need is right now, and it will be throughout the year, call Sacramento or even call somebody and say, hey, we need, we're offering Grant, Payne Pritchett, and maybe a second rounder, whatever. If you want to do a 3 chain, whatever it may be. But you got to add to that front court.
Little exemption action.
Some of the something like that.
So while we let Ray's blood pressure get back down to the low 200s, DK, I just have 2 questions for you. Did you notice the absence of Ime Udoka in this game because of the lack of timeouts during a run in Chicago? What the Bulls are making, and how long can we go with the ghost of Blake Griffin and Al Horford, who you should not be playing more than 20 minutes a game this early in the season? Like how good can we be with those 2 factors?
It's a good question, and I'm sure it's stuff people were thinking about over the course of these 4 games. I think no, we weren't seeing the ghost of Ime Udoka. I think that's stuff you can figure out. That's not rocket science. Kids that play fucking NBA 2K23 can figure out when to call timeouts. I think that sometimes you're trying to let them play. You're trying to let your guys get back into it. It is what it is. And at the end of the day, if you're going to have a coach do what Ime did, and I don't think we should give a ton of lip service to it over the course of the season. I think we should just try our best to let the players play their game. But if you're going to have a coach in any sport do what Ime did and then bring somebody else in, I want it to be basketball, because at the end of the day, it's just more important to have the best players playing their best game than it is to have a really good head coach. Yes, I agree with every Boston fan listening to this right now going, well, he was the one who turned it around when we were fucking under 500. I agree. But also, the players had to play their game, and I know that they liked him. I know they respected him, but it fucking is what it is at this point. As far as to your question and to Ray's point about essentially what is our 4 and 5 position and dealing Grant Williams, absolutely. I'm happy to deal Grant Williams. I'm happy it's not an island. I will build a bridge to that island. You don't need to stand there alone. And if anybody's telling you that that you have to ride with Grant Williams because of what he did in round 1 and 2 of the playoffs last year, then we don't need to waste our time with them. At the end of the day, if you can make a package in order to genuinely improve the height, rim protection, and rebounding that we are clearly lacking as a team, by trading Grant plus Payton Pritchett, seems to be the deal that you were kind of putting together, Ray. Thereabouts. Of course, it's a fucking no-brainer. And also, the guy's annoying. He's a dork, but he can be really good at basketball. And if he comes with us and he rides with us, and that's how it is, I'm with him. That is the problem. The problem, if any, is our height and our rebounding. If just like I always flash back to Game 7 of the 2010 Finals, whenever we rebound like we did last night, like I flash right fucking back to Rasheed Wallace not being able to get more than 2 centimeters off the fucking ground, and just like watching. That game is why I'm captain. Go get the guy who's 6'10". You know what I mean? Go get the guy. Like that game is that reason why I am the way I am with big men. Because I know what it looks like when you can't rebound the basketball. I think that rebounding is next only to scoring the most important thing your team needs to be able to do. And I know that in my bones, and we can't do it still, and it's annoying. However, the overall defensive play, to your point, Ray, I'm not super worried about, because I really do want this Celtics team to have the swagger of we're that guy. We're just going to score more points than you. Look who we have. We have Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, and it doesn't matter. You can score 119 because we let you score 119. We can play defense in 8-minute stretches when we need to. We can play defense in big games because we know we can. We were unproven before, and this is how we built our way back up to being a good team and a good unit. As we played defense, we played for each other, but we're already there. Look at our performance last season. It's nothing to be sniffed at. Yes, we lost to the Golden State Warriors, a team that knows how to win finals, but if you learned anything from that, it's that the Celtics team is good. And when the Wings play like they do, there's no reason for everybody when we're simultaneously talking about how many minutes are going to be in legs this year. And that's such an important factor. You can't also want them to die on every fucking defensive hill. You need to be able to win games without showing out and working as hard as you possibly can from 1 to 7. You need to be able to just go beat teams. Now, do we underestimate Chicago a little bit yesterday? Yes. but you win or you learn. I think that was a good lesson. I don't really think it's the same as it was last season when we played Chicago. I don't think it's the same team. I don't think it's the same mentality. I don't think it's the same makeup.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they may not have fully reacted, but I think this is an experienced team that, doesn't need to go kill themselves on defense in a random night in Sacramento. Like they need to just win those games.
Also, just so I can add a little bit of value to this portion of the show, right? And just so we can maybe pump the brakes on the subject that I brought up. Through 4 games of the 2021 and 2022 season, so last year, the Celtics allowed 119.7 points per game, and we finished pretty well. So I think it's just early on. We were 2-2 at that point. Now we're 3-1, but I think the difference is, and I'll let you go off on this, Ray, is we don't have a healthy 5 that we can trust right now.
Right.
And I know that we're all hoping for when Rob comes back, but this would be his 3rd or 4th knee injury in the last 2.5 years. So I love him. I think he is one of the intangibles of this team. But
if you're trading Grant, do you package Rob and get a really, really good number 5? Is that what you're going to ask?
Yes.
Because yes. Fuck it. If he's not going to stay healthy, I just don't know what to do anymore.
But so then it goes back to something that we originally talked about when we all started this, right? When we all started getting together to talk about this. Do you talk to Indiana again and say, was it going to alternative?
Yeah.
But I'm like, but that's, So, okay. So, I mean, if that's the case, then cool. But I'm like, it's
Rob. I'm fine with that. Come on. You are too.
I mean, if that's the guy, then sure. But it's like, I'm not. And then another guy I could think of, once again, I don't know why they would do this. Cause I'm like, I think they like what he's doing for them so far. But he's not good defensively, and well, at least not where he's at. It's Christian Wood in Dallas. Christian Wood has been sensational the last year.
I like him.
And he's a walking 18-8 a night. He's off the bench right now in Dallas, which I don't know why he's not starting over JaVale McGee. JaVale McGee's another option too. I feel like he'd be once again usually 10 to 15 minutes a night. I think at this stage in his career, he could do that.
I don't know if I'm sending him Rob Williams for JaVale.
No. I'm saying I'm just different options that can come off the bench. I think that but also too when we talk about team chemistry, I don't know. Once again, if you want to keep Brown and Tatum happy, I think if they traded Grant, it's like okay, but Rob and I'm saying this because I've seen it behind the scenes. Rob is loved up and down that organization. Like everyone says hello to him. It's hugged.
I love him.
So Rob Williams is that guy. He is loved over there. So I don't know if.
So I mean,
I don't know how well that would be received. Excuse me, if that would happen. But
it's a real thing.
But it's a real thing. It's a real thing. I just think to me, Grant, like I said, once again, if you had a package Rob into there, I don't know, but there's only a short list of guys I would take over Rob at the 5, especially defensively. So, once again, if they figure it out to do so, cool. I just don't know who that would be. I know we talked about
if Rob gets hurt going into the playoffs again this year, like, come on, everybody.
But that's why I think like the Rashawn Holmes of the world, even once again, even something like Dwight Howard. I know that got stopped. That something we talked about.
The cancer.
But once again, he's been on the championship team now. He's been in the finals twice, right? They beat us to get there. He is someone that's always in shape, regardless of where he's been at. He's always in shape. And once again, you're only asking for 10 to 15 minutes a night. Let him be what Tyson Chandler was later in his career. And he's better than Tyson Chandler. So it's like, to me, I just think that that's someone that you can speak to. I just think we're finding out that the 11 through 15 is not as deep as we thought it was. So
or it's tall.
1 through 8, they're really good. 1 through 8, 1 through 9, they're good. I just think you need once again, I like Vonleh, but once again, I just you just need one more guy there. Once again, to me, it's not Cornette. As much as he's like the locker room too, it's not Cornette. Go get Dwight Howard. Also, if you can get another big that could really contribute to this team, defensively, offensively, they're fine. They're gonna score. That's not the problem. And yes, most likely they're going to be the team that says, you know what, yeah, we're going to beat you 120 to 110 because we have guys that can give 50 on you any given time. Cool.
Oh.
Not mad about that. I just rather be 120 to 98.
I don't think
That's all, DK. I just want to 120 to 98.
You know what I'm saying?
I rather not stress out.
No, I get it. I do get it. I really do get it. And I know it's hard to like to start the engine on defense if you're not already doing it, but you do get what I'm saying, right? Like you do need them to be able to go win games without being the hardest working team in basketball, because what happens then is you get to like game 5 of the finals and nobody can fucking play anymore.
That's what last night should have been like, when they was already on mini.
I agree.
Coming to, because they got Cleveland on Friday night, right? Which that should be an excellent matchup early on.
Funnily enough, not a bad little team. Not a bad little team, the Cleveland Cavaliers.
So, listen, Evan Mobley. Yeah, listen, we can get it. But yeah, Mobley.
Jared Allen would be my number one choice. For the big that we're talking about. Obviously, that's obviously off the fucking table.
I'm glad you brought that up. Right? I said this to somebody on the phone yesterday. I was like, listen, if we were able to find a way to get Jared Allen, that he's on the short list of guys that I'd trade Rob. I would trade Rob. They said we would take Rob for Jared Allen.
There's 3 guys off limits for me. 3 guys off limits for me to go get him. That, and one is maybe I would do it still. So like,
like Rob. I'm like Jared Allen. Yeah, the fro. Like he would be loved here immediately.
How dumb are the fucking Brooklyn Nets, huh? Jesus Christ,
so dumb.
They have such a potential to be such a good team.
Awful.
So you just brought up a point that now I'm not saying that this is going to happen, but I'm just going to ask you a hypothetical, DK. So we know that the ceiling of this team, when they are not prolific scorers, but they are the hardest working team in the room and they play great defense, is game 5 of the NBA Finals. Conversely, if this year, because of the limitations with the 5, if they are prolific scorers and are not always the hardest working team, what do you think the ceiling is?
I still think the ceiling is super fucking high, because like we have 2 of the best wings in basketball. Like I'm looking at a team, and look, yes, I'm biased. Of course I'm biased. I'm a fucking Celtics fan. But I can't, I'm trying to put my brain where like a completely unbiased fan would be. And I know it's only been 4 games. I know that's kind of been my whole point, but I'm looking at a very, very good wing pair that could potentially both be first team all NBA. And one of them might maybe be even more. And what you have to remember about basketball, Celtics fans, what you have to remember is, yes, you can be the really strong 5-man, 6-man unit that plays really good defense and, schemes really well and throws a lot of bodies at superstars and goes farther than they should in the playoffs. Yes, of course you can be that. That's totally doable. It's a team sport. You make that happen. Or you can just have the best fucking guy. You can just have the best fucking guy in the court. That is a fact of life when it comes to basketball, because when you've watched it happen, most of us here in this generation have watched LeBron James. I mean, say what you will about that debate. I mean, most of my social media feeds are Michael Jordan versus LeBron James debates at this point anyway, but he's in the fucking conversation. When that guy was the best player on the floor, he was winning every single time. And I mean, he went up against a team of absolute freaks, of phenoms, a team that never should have lost in the Golden State Warriors in that finals and beat them, coming back from a deficit. I'm not saying Jason Tatum is LeBron James. I'm saying that if you have the best guy on the night in basketball, a lot of times you're going to win. If you have the best 2 guys on the night, you're definitely going to win. And we have Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, and I really think this is their year to just be like absolutely out of their fucking minds. And I'm not sure how much all this other stuff is going to matter.
Right, but I want to say this, and something that came to my mind, and DK, I have to give you credit that you alluded to this mainly with Tatum, but it's really becoming a team issue. I don't want us to become the early 2000s Portland Trail Blazers. Rashawn, what do you mean by that? I'm so glad you asked. I'll tell you.
I was about to.
Bronzy Wells, our assistant coach, Damon Stoudemire, Rasheed Wallace, Brian Grant, going.
Scottie Pippen.
Yeah, Scottie Pippen. Right? Scottie Pippen's on there, right? That team was very talented, super talented. Should have went to the finals 2 times and losing layers, whatever, so on and so forth. But from an emotional standpoint, they always had issues with the refereeing. And I see this team becoming that because they're not as volatile as that early 2000s Portland Trailblazers, but it's like just a little chicken. It could be 1 or 2 calls that don't go the way that they envision, and it's fucking over. And teams now are seeing that, and they know that, and it's like, oh well, shoot, well, we talent-wise, we don't have the talent, but if we crack to them mentally, it's a wrap. Which is what happened with Golden State. That's what happened in the finals. So I think that's more so. Last night reminded me of what I saw in the finals. That's another reason why I was pissed too. It's not about the 3-1 start. It's about I'm thinking long term. I'm thinking
the refereeing is bad though, right? Like,
no, it was awful. Because I think the one play that comes into mind. And listen, Javonte Green, I like you, brother, but you should be ashamed of yourself. You literally jumped into Marcus. You jumped on his fucking back. And the referee, Mark Davis, like, I almost said a word I'm supposed to say. Mark Davis, sir, you're unreal. Man, I'll just leave. I think I want to say something else, but I'm just like, you were unreal. And had I been in that game last night too, I definitely would have gotten ejected for saying a few names I shouldn't have said for sure. But no, like I said, it just reminded me that when things don't go the way they envision, it's like, yo, you got to find a way to play through. Because once again, teams are not going to lay down anymore because it's like they're looking to see how they measure up against you now. You're no longer the hunter, you're the hunted. It's like you got to figure out, like, yo, on most nights they can't fuck with us. That's the mentality they got to come into. Whether it's Chicago on a Tuesday night,
that's what I'm saying.
It's OKC on a Monday night. That's what it's got to be. So
that's exactly what I'm saying. And I think that the refereeing thing, the only thing I'll say, and this isn't me disagreeing with you because you're not wrong, because it can't, I have seen them get petulant at times when they shouldn't. But the only thing I'll say to try to maybe even just make you feel better is I think the attitude towards the refereeing trickles down from the top. I think that Jason Tatum has never been good with the referees. He's never been good with them. But I think that he's deserved to have calls go his way, like superstars just genuinely just do get calls called their way, and he just does it. Right. And I think what we're seeing right now is I've seen some technical fouls go Jason Tatum's way for no fucking reason this season. And I just think it's the last gasp of the referees. I really do believe this. The last gasp of the referees just going like, hey man, come on now. You don't act like that. Yeah, but honestly, it's out of their fucking control. It is out of their control. Like Jason Tatum is and this is what I hope they're saying to him because his attitude should reflect this truth. He's about to become undeniable. He's about to have a season where, and you can play this clip for Bobby because this is, I know I'm very much a Bobby style point.
Yeah, that's gonna be number 3 now.
But he's about to become. Someone's getting pregnant after this rant. It's the fact of the matter is he's about to become undeniable. And growing pains of dealing with the referees into this part of the season aside, the NBA, and I'm not accusing anyone of anything. There might or might not be a documentary on Netflix about how corrupt the officials are in the NBA, but the NBA is an organization based on who their best player is, who's the superstar. Since the Bird and Magic era, they have been saved, redeemed, and brought to the fore by who their superstars are. Jason Tatum's about to enter that, and I'm sorry, but the refereeing it's not going to be an issue. It's just not going to be an issue because he's petulant sometimes, and he should act a little bit differently and not throw his arms up and be a little bit sometimes, whatever. But he's right most of the time.
For sure.
The league or the officials have apparently mandated that little flip of the arm that Tatum is so notorious for. That's an automatic tech.
Keep doing it.
Automatic.
Keep doing it. Also score 37.
Yeah.
Also score 37.
Okay,
I don't give a shit. I genuinely get a technical foul every game and score 37 points. And guess which one of those two things we're going to be talking about on the fucking podcast. Get a fucking T every time. I don't give a fuck. The refs can't be a factor. Ray's right. I'm not disagreeing with him. He's right. You cannot let them beat you. You also can't let Chicago beat you. You also can't let Orlando beat you. You have to just go and be the best. But I really think the two approaches is cautious optimism from Ray, we'll call it, and me looking at what I'm seeing and being like, I think we're there. Like, well, let's see in 10 games.
Oh, no, they're
Tee him up.
there.
Tee him up. Tee him
Yeah,
up.
they're-
Throw out
they're
fucking
definitely
Joe.
there.
It doesn't matter. He dropped 44 on you. Suck my dick. That's it.
Yeah,
You know? That's it.
no, no. I love it. No, listen, they're definitely there. I don't want my rant to go, to have that.
Steve, the thing is, weirdly, I don't think you're wrong.
Like, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like they're there, but like I said, it's not about a loss, it's how you lose. And we just talked about that in the beginning of the show, where we talked about how to play. Like, it's not that you lost the game, it's how you lose it. You cannot be up big the way they were up. Looked like it was gonna be an easy night, and they could have went to Portillo's and got them a nice hot dog and a slush out of Portillo's out East Ohio Street in Chicago. But then they sat there, and now they're going back home to sit there with an L for the next 3 or 4 days. Like, that's a problem. That was
lose lose on the
it's like, come on, that's wild.
You're not wrong.
lose on the merits of your skill and not anything else. Like, it's okay if you go to
Exactly. They go.
I think you're not wrong. I think that it's a thing we've seen with this team before. Something felt a little different this time. I was just markedly less worried for whatever reason. I'm trying to access why that is, but it really did seem like it was like, oh, fuck. Like, they're all going around like, oh, you didn't want to roll over? All right, I guess, like, whatever. And it was less like when I can sum it up with, when they had that attitude before, I was equally as frustrated as you. It was very fucking difficult to watch because they didn't deserve to have that attitude. They had done nothing to deserve to have that attitude. I genuinely don't blame them for having that attitude now, because I still think they're going to win them more than 52 games.
Right.
Which is on the low end. I think that was the over and under going into the season, though, and that was the easiest over bet I've ever fucking made. So
Right.
if you look at it like that, and you look at it like maybe it's confidence, maybe it's not complete undeserved confidence anymore. Maybe it's not a lack of mentality. Maybe it's not communicating. Maybe it's like they were just so confident. They were like, oh shit, they came back. All right. And they were honestly so confident that they were like, whatever. Let's go win like 50 more games. It's fine.
I do think there's definitely truth to that. And I think even though it worked in reverse last night, I think there's going to be times during the season where they go up 15 on a team and the team's going to mail it in because it's like, well, man, they just got to the finals, to the East.
Yeah. There's a fear.
They're not good. So it should. This is gonna be nice where it works in their favor. But once again, when you have guys that can give buckets like DeRozan and Levine, who looks like he lost a step too, but and Vucevic or whatever, that's where it's like, yo, you have to continue to bring it, or else they're going to keep coming. And that's exactly what happened. Their second unit just stepped up and did what they had to do, and which is why they end up winning the game, in my opinion. So, once again, just do your best to bring it every night. Once again, I'm not saying balls to the wall event. That's not sustainable. But you cannot have games like that, lose on the merit of your skill, not for anything else. And like to me, that's a perfect ending.
Not for stupid.
Right, exactly.
What I will say though, and just like this is the final thing I'll say on this, because I know we got to wrap up. But what I will say is, Jaylen Brown, 4 Eastern Conference Finals, including one that brought him to a finals. Jason Tatum, 3 Eastern Conference Finals, including one that brought him to a finals. Marcus Smart sharing those accolades as well, being there for as long as he's being there. This is a team of 4 and 5 year veterans, 4 and 5 year veterans that can see an NBA season like they've been in the league 12 years. And I think that this is a group of guys that, to me, can clearly see the bigger picture, are clearly not going to get bumped off their mission because of a dumb kind of, you're not wrong about why they lost that game is the thing. But I'm just not as, I look at this team and I think they can all see the forest through the trees. I like exactly how they're all looking at the season, how they're looking at the team, how they see adversity, how they see the concept of adversity as a team is very evident for everyone to see. And it's not an easy, it's easy for you and me and Ray and Joe and Bobby and Craig to talk about adversity on this podcast, but it's a completely different thing to have it in the water at a sports organization. And I think that it's very clear to me already that They see adversity as a concept to be chased. They want it. When they hit it, they get better. When they see things happen to their coaching staff, when they lose in the finals, when they lose in the Eastern Conference Finals, they get better. They get better. They get better. And you can shrink that down to the micro, and you can say, okay, we lost Chicago. How did we lose Chicago? How do we get better? Because they've come back from losing. They've come back from adversity, and it's worked for them in the past. So they know now how to respond to things like this. And I have the almost faith that they will.
Well, they better fucking win on Friday.
Yeah, I really want them to win on Friday also.
I think this is a pretty good hour. I think, I feel like we started off, 2/3 of us started off really doom and gloom. This is a great way to end it. And I think that you just spoke so eloquently about the Celtics that there's nothing else that we need to say. So for DK Sizzle, Dave Clark, Hollywood, Rayshawn Buchanan, this is Michael Marcangelo saying thank you so much for listening to the 617 podcast, brought to you by Crowworthy, for the fans, by the fans. We'll talk to you next week.